All right, guys, what's going on? So I cannot believe that free agency's here, right? Tomorrow at noon, legal tampering period opens up, and I gotta be honest with you, I cannot wait. Right, this is a massive, massive offseason for the New York Jets, and we all know this. And look, let's not beat around the bush here. There's still a massive question mark at quarterback. Aaron Rodgers is still not on the Jets. Hopefully, by the time this video gets uploaded, he is on the Jets. But as of right now, things are still up in the air, and there's tons of conflicting reports. I mean, yesterday Connor Hughes comes out and said that everything is basically done. Like everything is pretty much set. We're just waiting on Aaron Rodgers. And then we had Tom Pelissero from the NFL Network come out with something different, right? Saying that it wasn't done. It's not just one more step that needs to be completed. There are some more hurdles that need to be crossed. So, and then we had the Aaron Rodgers, Brandon Marshall interview, right, that took place on the field, which I thought was super cool, but it's not like we got any concrete answers from that. Not much clarity on the situation. So with this video, and by the way, this is why I actually haven't posted a lot of free agency videos, because it's so hard. We don't know who's playing quarterback. We don't know what the cap situation is going to look like, how much time is going to be invested into trying to acquire Aaron Rodgers. Are the Jets going to be super slow on the first couple of days? Are they going to miss out on a ton of guys because they just don't know what the money situation will look like? I've actually recorded like 5 or 6 videos, but I just never uploaded them because they don't really make sense with the money situation being so up in the air. We just don't know how much the Jets are going to have. How active is the team actually going to be here? But in this one, I wanted to do an overview, right? Talk about numerous positions, numerous players that fit what the Jets want to do. All of these guys, to me, are realistic. Some are more expensive. Some are more depth options. Some guys are being talked about as potential trade candidates. Okay, so again, more of an overview here, a free agency preview where we talk about every single position of need for the New York Jets. Let's start with, to me, I would say the number one position of need outside of quarterback, of course, it's center. So the 4 options for me, I'm looking at Ben Jones from Tennessee, 33 years old. This is a guy who has experience in the playoffs, a long career with both Houston and Tennessee. He's durable. He gives you everything. He gives you everything that he can possibly give. He has experience working with 2 of the Jets' new coaches, right? Todd Downing, who's the team's passing game coordinator, but was the OC of the Titans last year. And then, of course, Keith Carter, new running game coordinator and offensive line coach here. So I think Ben Jones, he's not going to be too expensive. He brings over that veteran leadership. Again, 33 years old. For me, Jones is a great fit. Option number 2 is Connor McGovern. At 29 years old, McGovern is solid, right? He's not elite, he's not fantastic, but he's definitely not bottom of the barrel. These past couple of seasons, I've actually been impressed with what McGovern has looked like compared to his first season with Adam Gase at the helm. So McGovern's obviously an option to bring back. I don't see why the Jets would just, shy away, give him the cold shoulder and say, we're not interested at all. So definitely somebody to look at, depending on price. And then we have Jake Brendel, who's 30 years old. He's a veteran. He's really bounced around. He's played on a lot of different teams, but he's only really started one season, and that was last year for the 49ers. He fits the system. He does have good athleticism to get to the second level, to pull and whatnot. He actually was a Pro Bowl reserve. But I will say that I think the 49ers will try to bring him back. He's definitely going to be a cheaper option than some of the top targets out there. And the 49ers don't have that guaranteed set answer at the center position. So I think they'll probably end up bringing him back. And then last but not least, Ryan Kelly, 29 years old. Definitely been one of the better centers in the game throughout the course of his Colts career, former first-round pick. Now, he's expected to be released or traded. And over the past couple of seasons, his production has been dropping, but he's still a great center, right? He's still capable of going out there and putting up great numbers, being that force, being that anchor on the offensive line. And with him only being 29 years old, it's not like, just because he's had a couple of down seasons or his production is starting to dip, it's not like he's going to continue on that trend. Maybe a change of scenery, maybe working with new offensive linemen around him can shoot him back up. I mean, the Colts offensive line has been great over the past couple of seasons. When we just look at talent, floor, ceiling, production in both pass pro and the running game. So I think for me, those are the 4 guys that I'm going to be honing in on if I was the New York Jets at center. Okay, so let's flip over to the defensive side of the football and talk about another big team need, safety. right? Obviously, the team goes out and adds Chuck Clark. They traded a 7th round pick for him. He's not coming in on this big deal. I love it, right? You can take Clark, you can play him pretty much wherever you want on the back end of the defense. Free safety, strong safety. You can line him up at linebacker if you really, really need him to. He's lined up at slot corner. You could send him on blitzes. I know that's not really the Jets' MO, but he's just a guy that can do a lot of different things. His versatility, his consistency, his tackling ability. Also, he is coming from a winning program in the Baltimore Ravens, right? He's been around a lot of veterans, and he's been a consistent piece of that Ravens defense for years now. But outside of Clark, we look at some of these pending free agents. Jessie Bates is obviously the big name here. He's a dominant ball hawk, one of the best free safeties in the game, 26 years old. But with that comes price, right? Jessie Bates is not going to sign some cheap 1-year, $4 million deal. He is going to get paid. So we have to ask the question, can the Jets afford it? Will the Jets even try to pursue it and try to get into negotiation talks, because Bates will have a lot of suitors? Do they want to, invest a lot of time there? Still up in the air. Right, it's still up in the air, maybe. I think if the Jets maybe miss out on an Aaron Rodgers and we have all this money now to delegate elsewhere, Jessie Bates could be an option. But outside of Bates, we have Jimmy Ward, obviously experienced with Robert Saleh. He fits the system. He's played a lot of football, been a part of winning defenses. I think Jimmy Ward would come over and be a great culture fit. But if I got to be honest with you, I do think safety is probably the route that the Jets might travel down here. I mean, there's a ton of really, really good ones. Battle from Alabama, Branch from Alabama. Brandon Joseph is actually one of my favorites. He's projected to go maybe round 3, late round 2, round 3. He's from Notre Dame, but was previously at Northwestern. I literally think Joseph can start right away. We can plug him right in at free safety, and the Jets obviously don't have to, draft safety at one of these top premium position or a top premium draft picks at spot number 13. But granted, with this whole Aaron Rodgers trade in limbo, will the Jets be trading away middle round picks here, forcing them to take one in the first round? It's all still up in the air. So I think Jessie Bates is the top big money one. Jimmy Ward, maybe a really, really good team fit, scheme fit, a guy that we can get on a pretty affordable deal. And then if we miss out on both guys, target the draft, whether it's in the first round, second round, third round. I think you can go get a starter in those first 3 rounds of this upcoming draft. Okay, so moving on to linebacker here. I know it's not super exciting, but I really want the Jets to bring back the guys that they had last year. Quincy Williams, 26 years old, explosive as hell. He fits the system. He brings this level of electricity on Sundays. Personally, I feel like he's the hardest hitter on the Jets defense. Guys don't want to get tackled by him. He looks like he gets shot out of a cannon sometimes to blow up these screens, to hit running backs that maybe break through the first level. I mean, Quincy Williams to me is like, he brings the attitude, and I just love that about him. Hard-nosed player. He's my favorite player on the defense. I really want to see him back. Plus, he is the brother of Quinn Williams. So naturally, you want to keep that connection there. And then Quan Alexander, 28 years old, coming off a solid season at weak side linebacker. Obviously, fits the system, has experience doing it, knows Saleh really well, and he's not going to be expensive. This is a guy who signed a 1-year deal worth $1.1 million last year. If the Jets want, they could double his pay. 1 year, $2 million. That's still a bargain to me. And then last but not least, Tremaine Edmunds. We've heard Saleh rave about him before. He's one of my favorite players in football. I loved him at Virginia Tech. He's only 24 years old, right? He came into the NFL at 19. It was insane. But he's dominant in multiple areas. There's so much room to grow there. I mean, he could be outpriced. I think Tremaine Edmunds is actually going to get a massive, massive deal. I think for me, Chicago is probably the front runner because they have so much money in cap space, and now with the acquisition of DJ Moore, they probably won't be as active in wide receiver in the wide receiver market. So you can take some of those funds, really beef up Edmunds' deal and try to make it happen. I really feel like the Bears need some help defensively. They need talent, and Edmunds is a guy who, again, is 24 years old. He's a building block for years to come. So the Jets will probably get outpriced with Tremaine, but at this point, who knows how the financial situation is going to look. Okay, so moving on to defensive tackle, right? This is a position that I don't want to overlook here, considering how much Ulbrich and Saleh want to rotate guys in. The number one guy I want this offseason that's realistic is Dalvin Tomlinson. This is a consistent player, a high floor, durable player. He's not a superstar, he's not elite, but this is a guy who's just consistent. He's steady. You can pretty much pencil in 40 to 50 tackles a season. He always snags a couple of sacks. He will hit the quarterback. I loved him at Alabama, and he's missed 4 games in 6 years. Dalvin Tomlinson to me is a steal. And then, of course, we have Sheldon Rankins, coming off a great season with the New York Jets. But there has been some talks that he's going to want a lot of money, and the Jets just might not be able to afford it. So we'll see what happens with Rankins. Larry Ogunjobi, 28 years old. There was interest last year. He fits what the Jets want to do. He's in the prime of his career. I think as a rotational piece, also starter, Ogunjobi can come in and literally play right next to Quinnen and have a lot of success. And then last but not least here, DeForest Buckner. Now, there has been some talks that he could be traded before the draft. I don't really know how Indianapolis views Buckner at this point with the new coaching staff coming in. Granted, Gus Bradley's going to be there, but DeForest Buckner, just, Jet fan aside, he's just one of my favorite players in the game. He's consistent. He does a great job of getting after the passer. He's high floor and high ceiling. I feel like with DeForest, you know what you're going to get. It's always going to be an above average season, but he still has the potential to just immediately pop off, right? And have that insane year in the trenches. Now, I look at defensive tackle as an extremely important position in today's game. Right, you have to be able to rush the passer up the middle. With all these mobile quarterbacks, if you could disrupt the play, if you could disrupt quarterbacks up the middle and get pressure in his face, I think it's absolutely huge. That's why we're seeing defensive tackles getting drafted in some cases above edge rushers. So to me, if the Jets could land at DeForest Buckner, granted he's owed a lot of money, which is why he would be traded in the first place. But if the Jets could land Buckner, I would be totally excited for it. I mean, again, Buckner's one of my favorite players. And by the way, he's 6'7". He's enormous, long wingspan to just swat balls down at the line of scrimmage. Big fan of Buckner. And last point that just actually popped into my head, he was drafted by the 49ers originally, and he has experience with Robert Saleh, can work in this style of system. So overall, those are my 4 guys I'm looking at for defensive tackle. Now, swapping over to the offensive side of the football, let's talk about some wide receivers. And the 3 that instantly, pop into my mind: Randall Cobb, Allen Lazard, Sammy Watkins. The 3 guys that have experience working with Aaron Rodgers. They're all competent. They would all come in the building and have designated roles within the team. I think all 3 of those guys make sense, of course, if the Jets land Aaron Rodgers. Especially Allen Lazard. I mean, this is a guy who I watched a lot of back at Iowa State. I had the chance to interview him years ago. Super nice guy, super cool guy, but I love how he blocks at the wide receiver position. Like, he can really do a good job in the running game. But moving on, we got DJ Chark from the Detroit Lions, 26 years old. He's extremely fast. He's extremely big, 6'4", and he's not going to command a ton of money. So if the Jets want a guy who can, take the top off of defense, I think Chark can do it, as well as box guys out in the red zone. But I will say this, he was available last offseason, and there was just no push from the Jets. Next, we have Courtland Sutton here, and this is a guy who has been rumored to potentially be a trade candidate, and I love Sutton, I gotta be honest, but he has been hurt a lot. He's missed a lot of time. He has a humongous upside, a massive catch radius. You could just chuck the ball up to him, and he's gonna go make it. Playmaking ability, I think Sutton would come in and be an awesome find for this Jets room, because we don't really have that massive target, right? That massive 6'3", 6'4" guy outside of Corey Davis, who might be released, and Denzel Mims, and nobody really knows what the plan is there. So Courtland Sutton, I don't think it would take a lot to get him. He's getting paid quite a lot, but at the end of the day, Sutton would be a huge upgrade over what the Jets currently have and would be a day 1 starter. And then last but not least, with wide receiver Adam Thielen, 32 years old. He's a veteran. He has great hands. There has been some reports that Thielen's going to want to join a contender, like a Super Bowl contender right off the bat. And the Bills and the Chiefs are the 2 teams that I keep seeing being linked to Thielen. It might be a little funny that Thielen could end up in Buffalo, right, with Stephon Diggs, where they were both teammates in Minnesota. But moving on to guard, another position that I don't want to overlook here. We got Nate Herbig, who I thought was awesome last year. He had a chance to play. He's really young, 24 years old, has chemistry with the guys, came over from Philadelphia, and this was a guy who I felt like a ton of Eagles fans were just irritated when he ended up with the New York Jets. I'm a big fan of Nate, and the one thing that we do know about this Jets team, we need depth. Dan Feeney's a free agent. Obviously, Nate Herbig's a free agent. Connor McGovern's a free agent. We had all these guys injured last year. We just didn't have the bodies. So for me, I think it's really, really crucial to bring Herbig back just in case something happens to one of the starting guards. Next up, Tom Compton, 33 years old. He can play tackle or guard. He can line up on both sides of the line of scrimmage. He's not going to be expensive. Has missed a lot of time, hasn't been the most reliable player in his career, but still, when we're talking about a backup role, I think Compton would step in and be an upgrade over the Jets' backups as we stand right now. Next up, Dalton Reisner. This is somebody that looked really, really good in the past. He has a really high upside. I loved Reisner back at Kansas State. I thought he was going to be an absolute steal for Denver, and at first it really looked like that, but over really this past season, it wasn't as good as what was previously shown. So Dalton Reisner is an interesting name to watch. And then last but not least, Nate Davis. And this to me is, I feel like, a guy who the Jets should really, really go after. Not really sure how much he's going to be getting paid in the free agency market. Maybe 5 to 8 mil, somewhere in that range, which is obviously, not cheap, but he's a steady starter. He's great in the running game. He's experienced with 2 Jets coaches in Downing and Keith Carter, much like Ben Jones before. He has playoff experience. He started in a lot of games, 54 to be exact, in 4 seasons. And on top of that, he's 26 years old. So I look at Nate Davis as a potential find for this Jets team. Although we do have Lincoln Tomlinson on a big contract, and then AVT's coming back as well. Do the Jets want to play AVT at tackle? Still kind of up in the air. I think for me right now, I would just like to see Vera Tucker stick at guard. Because a tackle, again, Dwayne Brown, Mekhi Becton, Max Mitchell, and maybe we can add a depth piece in free agency or maybe even in the draft. But I think free agency, adding a veteran would be the right move. Anyway, let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. I would love to hear your thoughts on who you want the Jets to target. I cannot wait. I literally cannot wait for tomorrow at noon. Hopefully we get some big news. Hopefully this Rodgers news comes out before then. And yeah, thanks so much for watching. I appreciate it. And as always, go Jets.